Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Hello and welcome to this video. Hope everyone's doing well. Hope life is treating you well. Hope the other humans out there are treating you like a good human and you're being a good human in return. We are going back into the world of Hunter S. Thompson, Kingdom of Fear. And before we start, I want to mention I just came across a 2008 documentary on Hunter S. Thompson on Amazon Prime, simply called Gonzo. It is a collection of readings from his different novels by Johnny Depp. You have interviews with Thompson that are in there. You have interviews with his first wife and his second wife, his kids, and if you're a fan of Hunter S. Thompson, it may be a thing that you might want to check out. And if you're kind of new to Hunter S. Thompson and who and what he is, check it out. It's well worth it. So let's 24 skidoo and get into this.
While the air police were looking for me. She had a swimming pool shaped like a football in her backyard, and the neighbors called the police on us when we ran around naked and fucked like sea weasels on the diving board.
Yeah, it's those kind of things that can get you in trouble with your superiors.
Sally loved football players. She thought she could stay young forever by sucking the juice of eternal life out of hard young bodies. She called it the milk of paradise.
That is interesting. I've actually met women who have allotted the regenerative powers of semen, both as a nutritional supplement and as a face cream. I personally don't put much stock in it because we all get older. And, it is what it is. But there are women out there like that, even in this century that we live in.
And she rubbed it on her face every night.
Yeah. Like I said, there are real world women like that, even in this day and age.
Sally was 25 years old, and she looked like one of those racy Brazilian girls who play volleyball on the beach in Rio on Sunday mornings. Her father was a bird colonel at the Air Force Base, and her mother was a Southern debutante.
Oh, yeah, that is court-martial and Article 15 and dishonorable discharge all rolled up into one luscious, sexy vagina.
She had a very young son who laughed crazily when I would pick him up by his ankles and swing him around in fast circles like a pinwheel.
And I bet you she has no idea who the daddy is.
I forget his name now, but he liked me and he thought my name was Airman. His mother took me to dinner at fancy bars and yacht clubs in Mobile. She drove a sky blue Cadillac, and she loved to get naked and drive fast at night on the Pensacola Highway.
Yeah. Women like that are good when you're in your 20s. When you're in your 50s, they're good to remember.
In my car or hers, which was far too heavy to drive out on the beach and parked between the sand dunes while we swam in the Gulf of Mexico on moonlit nights. Sally had a day job somewhere in downtown Mobile, but she would always call in sick when I came to visit. She would say that she'd hurt her back on the diving board and she could hardly walk for the pain. She would take off 5...
And yeah, depending on exactly how much sex and the type of positions they were in, she may not be lying about the whole thing.
For 6 days at a time when I was there, but she never worried about it. She said they could do without her for a few days, and they knew she had a bad back, which was true, but not because she was crippled. Nope, it was because of
Because she's a nympho.
that nasty sandpaper surface on the diving board at her pool. It rubbed her spine raw when we got drunk and screwed on it at night for 2 or 3 hours at a time. We would wake up in the morning.
I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. It's cool. It's literary license to, talk about 2-3 hours at a time. But even in my 20s, it was more like 2 or 3, 4 hours spread out over 8, 9 hours. It's though the like I said, for a literary standpoint, it sounds good the way Thompson puts it out.
Morning with blood all over the sheets from bouncing around on that goddamn diving board all night. The pain made her cry, and I could barely walk the next day because of the bleeding wounds on my knees and my elbows. I had bleeding scabs on my knees for most of that summer.
But you still went and hit it.
And when I finally went back to work on the newspaper, I had trouble walking around the office. The other editors laughed at me, but my boss, Colonel Evans, was a serious military man, and he hated the sight of a man with fresh blood on his pants lipping around his office.
Yeah, I imagine that, especially if they're regular military, regular Air Force at that time. We called people like that when we were growing up regular Army or real Army, and yeah, or when I worked TDC, we called people like that company man.
God damn it, Hunter, he would scream. What in the name of shit is wrong with you? There's blood all over the floor in the bathroom. I slipped and almost fell down when I went in there to piss. I told him it was because I had to play football on the weekends, and the base football field was in such bad shape that I sometimes fell down when I was running out for a pass from Zeke Bretkowski or...
Yeah, good thing you have buddies to cover for you on shit like that.
Max McGee. Oh my God, he would scream. You're a goddamn fool, aren't you? Why?
Yeah. I think at that age we all are fools. At least those of us with prostates and penises.
Shit, are you trying to play football at this time of year? Do you have shit for brains? This is goddamn baseball season.
Yeah, it's kind of, it is what it is. That's something that, a lot of passages in this book that you read them or listen to them, and that's basically the only thing that you can say.
Are you too stupid to know that it's baseball season? Are you some kind of human jackass? No.
Sounds more like a first sergeant than a colonel, to be honest with you.
Oh, I would say, I'm the sports editor, which was true. The colonel hated it, but his hands were tied. The Eglin Eagles were the defending champions of what was the U.S. Worldwide Military Command in those days, and we expected to win it again.
Yeah, so practicing is, what you got to do.
Football was big at Eglin Air Force Base.
Well, football is big in Texas and the American South. It's almost religious that it's that popular. I mean, there are people I know that are multiple generations in the area I live that I would not expect or be surprised. I would not be surprised if they thought Jesus would show up in his when he returns wearing a A&M Aggie uniform.
Very big. The football team was a perennial powerhouse, famous all over the world. At least everywhere in the world where the United States of America had a functioning military base, and that was just about everywhere. Playing for Eglin was like playing for the Green Bay Packers, and star players were no less pampered. ROTC was a mandatory course for all student athletes at taxpayer-funded universities.
And I like how he points out that we, the taxpayer, are picking up the bill for this football team
In the nation back then, even for all-American football stars at schools like Alabama and Ohio State. And all ROTC student athletes were required to serve for at least two years of active duty in the U.S. Armed Forces.
playing football.
They had no choice unless they qualified for a draft exemption for moral or medical reasons, which carried a lifelong, career-crippling stigma. So most of them did their 2 years in uniform and then got on with their lives in the real world.
And a college degree to boot.
Like everybody else. Paris Review, number 156. George Plimpton. Reading The Proud Highway.
That name sounds familiar. It's ringing some bells in the little cranium here.
I got the impression you always wanted to be a writer. Hunter S. Thompson. Well, wanting to and having to are two different things. Originally, I hadn't thought about writing as a solution to my problems, but I had a good grounding in literature in high school.
See, I always wondered what would have happened if Hunter S. Thompson would have lived long enough to see a financially feasible, supportive YouTube channel. Could you imagine him doing YouTube videos? That would be awesome. Ooh, somebody needs to sit down and AI deepfake some Hunter S. Thompson YouTube videos. That could be just awesome. Basically teaching AI with nothing but Hunter S. Thompson material. That would be crazy.
We'd cut school and go down to a cafe on Bardstown Road where we would drink beer and read and discuss Plato's parable of the cave.
Pretty much a story about every redneck that I've ever come across.
We had a literary society in town, the Athenaeum. We met in coat and tie on Saturday nights. I hadn't adjusted too well to society.
Yeah, I don't. Me in a coat and tie. My wife can barely get me, to wear something besides blue jeans or cargo pants. So, coat and a tie. Ugh.
I was in jail for the night of my high school graduation, but I learned at the age of 15 that to get by, you had to find the one thing you can do better than anybody else. At least this was so in my case.
I'll just sum it up in a word. In my case, one word: cunnilingus.
I figured that out early. It was writing. It was the rock in my sock. Easier than algebra. It was always work, but it was worthwhile work. I was fascinated early on by seeing my byline in print. It was a rush. Still is.
In a lot of ways, I kind of get that rush after I post a video and I see, people are watching them. The actual number of views is not something I'm worried about or something that I collectively just worry about. It's the fact that there's any views, that there's, anywhere from 1 to, 20 or 30 or whatever. That one person out there in this wonderful internet YouTube land has sat down and watched it. I think it's just one of those things that it's kind of a thrill for me. Like I said, it's not the actual count. It's just the fact that it's not zero. Anything not zero is like a thrill for me.
When I got to the Air Force, writing got me out of trouble. I was assigned to pilot training at Eglin Air Force Base near Pensacola in northwest Florida. But I was shifted to electronics. Advanced, very intense, 8-month school with bright guys. I enjoyed it, but I didn't want to end up on the DEW line.
Yeah, that would be bad.
The distant early warning line.
Yeah, those are the people that get scared first in the event of something going south in political negotiations.
Somewhere in the Arctic Circle. Besides, I'm afraid of electricity.
And I have to concur. And the reason why electricity bothers me is because you can't see it. I can see fire. I can see a snake. I can see a coyote or a bobcat. I can't see electricity, and that just fucks my brain up.
Went up to the base education office one day and signed up for some classes at Florida State. I got along well with a guy named Ed, and I asked him about literary possibilities. He asked me if I knew anything about sports, and I told him I'd been the editor of my high school paper. He said, well, we might be in luck. It turned out that the sports editor, a staff sergeant of the base newspaper, the Command Courier, had been arrested in Pensacola and put in jail for public drunkenness.
And we will go ahead and call this video good here. We'll find out more about Thompson's college days in our next video. And until next time, be a good human. Be good to other humans. Peace.
Hey, it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?